Amazing love story. Cowboy Marries. 71-year-old Baroness, 7 days later, discovers shocking secret. Jake Sinclair had always grappled with the horizon of his family's sprawling Texas ranch. The land a stubborn reminder of both his roots and the weight of impending change. Each dawn, he hoisted himself out of his bed, joining the ritual of sweat and toil. But lately, the nightly calm turned into an unsettling unease. The ranch, once a symbol of dignity, now burdened him with financial strain he couldn't shake off. Doubts crept into his thoughts as he witnessed the creeping shadows of modernity. For sale signs scattered like leaves, neighbors closing up, retreating from their once vibrant lives. His heart raced as he questioned if he was fighting a losing battle. It was amidst this turmoil that Lady Margaret strode into his life. A 71-year-old baroness with an undeniable spark and stories that danced on the edges of magic. The first time they shared warmth in conversation was while tending to the horses. Her laughter felt like a beam of light against the storm cloud of his discontent. The energy between them felt electric, igniting a previously dormant part of his heart, entwined with the aching desire for adventure, for fulfillment beyond the everyday grind. Yet even as the enchantment grew, shadows lingered. Was this love a fleeting mirage amidst the harsh realities of his life? The whispers around town began to mount as their union blossomed, drawing stares and judgment with each passing day. As tensions swirled among family and friends, his raw determination to protect what he loved clashed with the weight of tradition. His mind raced with doubt, strained to reconcile the paradox of an extraordinary love found in the arms of a woman the world deemed too old for him. Living in defiance of societal norms felt exhilarating, yet terrifying. Did he possess the loyalty to honor both his heart and his heritage? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as hope flickered, a hidden letter, discovered during a rummage through an old trunk while cleaning the barn, twisted the knife deeper. His hands trembled as he opened the dusty parchment, the words written long ago unraveling a tangled web, connecting Margaret's lineage with his own. A secret that could break their fragile bond. The realization hit him like a runaway stallion, stomping through the ground beneath him. His heart raced, thoughts colliding, wrestling with confusion that felt like barbed wire tightening around his chest. What did it mean for his family? For their love? How could he confront Margaret with this revelation, aware of the tumult it might release? As he stood there, the barn quiet save for the rustle of hay, a tempest brewed within him. The dilemmas of loyalty danced between two opposing worlds, each pulling him toward an uncertain future. That moment crystallized everything he feared. Could love bridge a chasm formed by history? The stakes felt impossibly high, and just when Jake thought he had started to unravel the truth, it loomed like dark clouds overhead, clamoring for the light of day, threatening to swallow him whole. He was left teetering at the edge, unknowing if he'd emerge whole or shattered, ready for the reckoning ahead. The wind howled through the cracks of the barn, carrying with it the scent of old hay and unspoken words. Jake's fingers lingered on the letter, each word piercing through his mind like arrows dipped in uncertainty. What truth could be so potent that it might unravel the profound bond he and Margaret had begun to weave? With the evening sun casting long shadows, he felt the weight of his lineage bearing down upon him, an ancestral echo demanding his loyalty. He needed answers. Questions churned within him like a stormy sea. What history lay hidden in the folds of Lady Margaret's past? Was their love a mere dalliance, or was it intricately entwined with the very fabric of his own existence? This was no ordinary conundrum. It was a riddle crafted from the very essence of their beings. Jake knew that the reputation of his ranch was tethered to something larger than financial stability. The Sinclair name carried with it both pride and a legacy that had weathered countless storms, yet now it faltered under the scrutiny of neighbors and the town's whispers. His heart clenched at the thought of failing both his family and the woman who, against all odds, had ignited a new passion in him. In a swirl of resolve, he decided to confront Margaret. The dinner table set for two was laden with anticipation, but Jake sensed an undercurrent of tension, an electric charge that hinted at the confrontation to come. As she entered the room, Margaret's beauty was irrefutable, even graced by the wisdom of her years. Yet he knew he had to breach the veil of uncertainty that lay between them. "Margaret," he began, his voice a mixture of tenderness and trepidation. "There's something we need to discuss." He paced the length of the table, feeling like a man straddling two worlds, uncertain of where he belonged. "I found something today. Something about your family." Her eyes widened, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability that only deepened his internal conflict. "What did you find, Jake?" she asked, her voice steady yet tinged with concern. Taking a breath that felt heavy with purpose, he recounted the letter, unearthing its contents that detailed the interplay of their families across generations, history with the power to fracture or fuse their hearts. With each revelation, he watched the flicker of emotions dance across her face, a mix of surprise, fear, and a dawning understanding. "I would never wish for our love to exist in the shadow of any past grievances," he confessed, his hands betraying his unease as they clenched. "But I cannot ignore the truth, Margaret. It's a part of who we are. We need to decide what it means for us." As her eyes shimmered with unspoken thoughts, he recognized the storm brewing outside mirrored the tempest in their hearts. This moment shifted the ground beneath them, and with it came the understanding that honesty, no matter how painful, was the only path forward. Would they rise together, or would the weight of their histories fracture what they had built? In the silence that ensued, Jake's heart thundered against the pulsating beat of uncertainty. He wondered if he would lose not only the woman who had shown him new horizons, but also a part of himself that he had only just begun to understand. Just as he opened his mouth to speak again, the sound of thunder echoed in the distance, a prelude to the storm that was about to unfold. The time had arrived for them to crack open the vaults of history and confront the shadows lurking just beyond the light of their love. Would they find strength in vulnerability, or would the tides of fate pull them apart? The room hung in oppressive silence, a fragile thread of uncertainty weaving between Jake and Margaret. He sensed the storm outside intensifying, the echoes of thunder matching the turmoil within him. He had laid bare the skeletons of their families, but what now? Responses danced tauntingly on the edge of his thoughts, yet words remained elusive, trapped behind a fear of what revelations might follow. Margaret broke the tension, her voice trembling slightly. "Jake, the past, it's complicated. My family has held tight to secrets, thinking they would protect us, but maybe they obscure the truth." He studied her, noticing the way her fingers fidgeted with the edges of the tablecloth as if seeking comfort in the texture beneath her touch. "What are you saying?" He pushed, his heart rate quickening. "There's something else, isn't there? Something you haven't shared?" Her gaze fell to the floor, a shadow creeping across her features. "There are things I've chosen to forget, but I can't let that happen anymore. You deserve to know everything about me. Just know, my history intertwines deeply with yours." Jake felt a tightening in his chest. The truth was becoming a double-edged sword, painful, yet necessary. "Then let's face it together. Whatever it is, we can work through it," he urged, wrestling with the rising tide of fear and resolve within him. Margaret took a deep breath, the weight of her decision clear in her eyes. Jake, my family was entangled in events, things that could forever taint this ranch, your name, the Sinclairs and my family. There's a legacy of rivalry, mistrust, and heartbreak. He absorbed this revelation, the implications swirling around him. Could their love truly withstand the tempest of their pasts? What happened? He pressed, frustration and fear mingling in his voice. I can't make a decision on our future if I'm in the dark about the past. With palpable hesitation, she began to share her story. Tales of long-standing feuds, business betrayals, and the weight of familial expectations that had suffocated her from the inside out. Her family's wealthy stature had come at a cost, drawing animosities in ways she wished she could erase. As she spoke, Jake listened, absorbing every word, recognizing that each revelation was a stepping stone on the path to understanding. However, amid the details, he felt the urgency of action welling inside him. He could not remain idle as the shadows of their history hung ominously over them. Margaret, if we are to make this work, we need to confront these issues head on. I have a strategy for my ranch, for preserving its legacy. It's time we stand together against these ghosts. His heart thrummed with renewed determination. The Sinclair name could be redeemed, history rewritten by their choices. Her eyes met his, a flicker of hope illuminating the dark undertones swirling in the air. You're willing to fight for us? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Of course, he affirmed, the words dragging a half-smile across his lips. There's so much worth saving in what we have, but it will require transparency and teamwork. We can forge a new legacy, our legacy. The faint crackle of thunder punctuated his statement, a reminder of the storm raging outside, a battle of its own. Just then, a sudden thought burst forth from the depths of Jake's mind. Could their reunion be more than just love? Could it be an opportunity to reshape the very fabric of their family's destinies? Margaret, if you're on this journey with me, he said firmly, we need to revisit the past. Perhaps even confront those who've held our families hostage to their grudges. He watched her carefully, aware that the decision they faced could redefine their lives. Stepping into the unknown, he felt a rush of exhilaration mixed with terror. This was no longer just about love. It was about carving out their place in the world amidst a hurricane of familial histories. As they locked eyes, an unspoken agreement passed between them. They would uncover the past's secrets together. But what awaited them beyond the door of truth? Would the revelations strengthen their bond, or threaten to rip them apart? The moment to face what lay ahead was almost upon them, and Jake felt as though they were teetering on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into whatever awaited them on the other side. Would they find the freedom of their true selves, or would the burdens of their families continue to hold them captive? Jake's resolve solidified in the silence that enveloped them. Facing an uncertain future, he felt the weight of their heritage pressing down on him, demanding action. He had always preferred tackling the challenges on his ranch with a hands-on approach. Yet now, the stakes were far more personal, the drought on his land a mere echo of the emotional parched soil beneath their conflict-ridden histories. Margaret, I know my family's legacy might seem an anchor dragging us down, but what if we used it as our foundation? His words hung in the air, caught between hope and trepidation. We can take ownership of our pasts. We can redefine the narrative. The flicker of firelight danced across her face, revealing her inner turmoil. But what if the people involved refuse to see that change is possible? What if they want to cling to these old grudges? That's why we need to be bigger than them, he replied, his heart pounding with urgency. We can't let their hatred dictate our choices. We'll show everyone that there's a brighter path ahead. In searching for strength, Jake realized that embracing his vulnerability was crucial. He had always viewed himself as the stoic cowboy, unyielding and tough. Yet, in this moment, he understood that true strength lay in confronting their demons, not shying away from them. "I have an idea," he said, his mind racing with the possibility. "Let's hold a meeting with both families. We can't let them exist in isolation anymore, feeding off bitterness." Margaret's brow furrowed, apprehension clouding her expression. "A family meeting? You think that will work?" "Why not?" he countered, a fire igniting within him. "The only way they can start to let go of the past is by understanding what it truly means. We have to expose the wounds beneath the scars." He took a step closer, matching the intensity in her eyes. "If we do this together, we'll show them we're not scared of facing what's been hidden." Margaret studied him, and Jake caught the glimmer of understanding flicker in her gaze. Yes, they were all entwined in a web of pain, but through their courage, perhaps they could cut through it. "I want to believe in this," she said slowly, "but it will be fraught with tension. Are we ready for the fallout?" He nodded, a newfound determination fueling his thoughts. "We've already suffered the consequences of staying silent. Maybe it's time to confront not only our families, but also our own fears." The thunder roared outside, and he could feel the stakes rising. What if their initiative was met with anger, with fallout far worse than they anticipated? But the idea of transformation, the chance to restart, filled him with anticipation. "Margaret, this is our chance to rewrite the history of the Sinclair name," he asserted, adrenaline coursing through him. "Even if they resist at first, they'll remember the strength we exhibited." With each word, a vision bloomed in his mind. A legacy defined not by bitterness, but by the courage to love amidst adversity. As they planned their approach, he felt a new sense of growing confidence. He wasn't just fighting for their love. He was advocating for change, healing, and redemption. "Let's move quickly," he said as the storm raged outside, mirroring the tempest within them. "I want us to be ready for this meeting. Logistics, information. We need to anticipate their objections. Strategy will be key." Margaret's smile sent warmth through him. "You're right. We approach this like we're getting ready for a major cattle sale, thorough, strategic, and united." The plan unfurled before them, yet Jake didn't forget the weight of the past hanging above them. With each passing moment, the tension grew, weaving a narrative that teetered on the brink of chaos or catharsis. Would their families welcome new beginnings, or would deep-seated enmities drive them apart before they'd even begun? A hesitation lingered in the air, and Jake felt the pressure mounting. "Are you prepared for what lies ahead?" he asked, knowing that the risk they were taking could lead to either salvation or disaster. "I am," she replied, determination flooding her voice. They stood on the precipice of their future, gripping the strands of fate in their hands. But that was the question. Do they truly have the courage to confront the past, or would the ghosts of their families tear them apart? As they prepared for their first steps, a shadow of doubt settled in Jake's mind. They had inspired hope, but had they also ignited a storm that would pull them under? The scent of rain-soaked earth filled the air as Jake stepped out of the cabin, the rumble of thunder echoing the tempest within him. Each heartbeat pulsed with uncertainty as he mulled over the enormity of their plan. They were about to dive into a convoluted history that had torn their families apart. The patches of hope woven into their discussions felt fragile, as though they could be blown away in the storm's fury. His first step toward the barn was heavy, his thoughts grinding against his resolve. What precisely had he signed up for? Each family member involved carried weights of resentment and misunderstandings that could implode at any moment. Jake couldn't shake the fear that their futures depended not just on their own willingness to enact change, but on forces far beyond their control. As he entered the barn, the familiar scent of hay and leather greeted him, a reminder of simpler times where he felt competent and grounded. He had mastered the ranch, developed skills that seemed natural to him, taming unruly horses, mending fences, and nurturing his crops through drought. But this? This was a different breed of challenge, confronting not just his family's past, but his own insecurities. This required a level of bravery he had yet to muster. He grabbed a pitchfork, channeling his restlessness into a physical task. The rhythmic motion, pricking the hay, mirrored his need to sort through his own confusion. Deep down, he questioned his capacity to lead this initiative, to confront the sins of their families while standing firm in his own skin. Were he and Margaret really equipped to bear this load? Would their love be enough to withstand the backlash? While Jake worked through his thoughts, snippets of conversations from his childhood came back to him, the whispered arguments between his parents, the sorrow etched on faces, generations clinging to grievances like badges of honor. What if he failed? What if the attempt to bridge the gaps merely widened them? Just then, the barn door creaked open. It was Margaret, her spirit still fierce amidst the chilling rain. She looked at him with an intensity that grounded him. It was as if she was silently urging him to look beyond his fears. "I thought you might be here. I wanted to discuss the order of the meeting." Jake leaned the pitchfork against the wall, shaking off the remnants of his insecurity. "Right. We need to plan the agenda carefully and set the tone early." Margaret nodded. "We should establish a neutral environment, somewhere safe where they feel heard, not threatened. If we can get them to listen before the tensions flare, it might help." He admired her calm demeanor, but doubt still loomed over him. "But what if their emotions boil over? What if my family clings to their rage?" "Then we hold our ground," she replied firmly. "We can't control their emotions, but we can control how we respond to them. We'll stick to facts. This won't be easy, but it's worth it to break this cycle." Jake examined her, looking for reassurance. As strong as she seemed, neither of them could anticipate the storm of reactions awaiting them. A piercing thought struck him. Perhaps confronting their family histories mirrored the ranch itself. The land thrived only when nurtured, when every thorny problem was dealt with instead of ignored. "Look, we're doing this together," he said, a bit more conviction blossoming in his voice. "We'll plant the seeds for our legacy today, despite the risk." Margaret smiled, and for the first time, Jake felt a flicker of hope pushing through his trepidation. Together, they could face this storm. He turned back toward the barn's entrance, ready to outline specifics. But as they began to discuss their approach, a startling thought pinned him in place. What if we learned something unexpected about our families? Something that could change everything? He pondered aloud. Margaret's eyes widened. "Are you suggesting—" "Maybe their pasts are tangled in ways we didn't anticipate," he interrupted, the implications swirling in his mind. "What if this leads to revelations we aren't ready for?" As the shadows of the barn loomed around them, Jake understood that they were not just preparing for confrontation, they were unearthing the core identities of their families, and perhaps their own. This was no longer merely about healing, it was about unlearning inherited narratives. With every plan they laid, he felt the weight of potential truths pressing harder against him. The door banged shut, an echo reverberating through the space, as the wind howled outside. Jake looked at Margaret, their eyes locking, sharing unvoiced fears. The reveal of family secrets could either obliterate their fragile steps forward or pave the way for authentic forgiveness. He took a deep breath, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. But the seismic shift in his heart still beckoned a resolution that felt miles away. Would they have the courage to not only confront their reality, but also to embrace the truth that could alter everything they thought they knew? The air in the barn felt dense with anticipation as Jake and Margaret continued their discussion. Jake's resolve solidified again. He was determined to learn whatever secrets the meeting might unveil, but anxiety clung to him like a second skin. The stakes had never felt higher. "Let's focus on what we can control," he suggested, folding his arms across his chest, the tension in his body mirroring the uncertainty of their future. "We need to establish ground rules, something that reinforces respect among them." Margaret nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. "Absolutely. I think we should emphasize listening. If everyone knows they'll have a chance to speak, it might ease some of that pent-up frustration." They brainstormed various strategies, but as the minutes ticked by, Jake felt the looming shadow of his family's tensions seeping into their plans. He started jotting down points, and as he wrote, he became increasingly aware of his own weaknesses, the doubts that overshadowed his confidence in facing familial ghosts. "What if we put together a few prompts?" he suggested, sharpening his pencil with each thought. Questions that might encourage them to explore deeper feelings rather than just surface grievances. "Great idea. We could start with something light, like fond memories, then gradually move to the more troubling issues." Margaret replied enthusiastically, an encouraging smile brightening her features. Jake felt a swell of pride at their emerging strategy. Yet the warmth of collaboration was abruptly thwarted as heavier thoughts intruded. Are we only stirring up the past, or are we truly digging for answers? As they compiled potential questions, his mind strayed to the possibility of deceit lurking beneath the surface family histories. He had spent so many years dissecting the stories that had become part of his identity. But what if those narratives were incomplete, or even altered? What if we get to a point where we reveal something no one expected, something that could fracture everything? Jake's voice wavered slightly, betraying his inner turmoil. Margaret paused, her expression shifting to one of concern. "If that happens, we tackle it together. Remember, we're doing this to find clarity, even if it means going through discomfort." He couldn't help but wonder if that clarity would come at a cost. The lives tied to their conversations, the love and pain woven into their pasts, hung heavily on his conscience. As he straightened, the weight of his thoughts crystallized into a singular realization. The meeting was a test, not only for their families, but for himself. Could he navigate the treacherous waters of buried truths? Could he lead with authenticity when his footing felt so uncertain? "Margaret," he said, locking eyes with her, "what if the truth about our families means not just healing, but also a re-evaluation of who we are? Would you still want to be with me if the past showed things we might not like?" The question hung between them, a tangible thread of vulnerability. Margaret stepped closer, her expression softening. "I want to be with you no matter what, but we can't control the narrative. We can only face it together." With a deep breath, Jake nodded, acknowledging that he wouldn't have to shoulder this burden alone. Yet the unease continued to churn within him. Could love truly withstand the storms of revelation? As they finalized their discussion, doing their best to solidify ground rules and expectations for the meeting, the thunder rumbled again outside, resonating with his escalating sense of purpose. They were about to ignite a reckoning, one that could unravel everything, or could lead them toward a brighter future. The gravity of their situation pressed on him, and he realized that the risk of enlightenment might be greater than he had anticipated. As they prepared to leave the barn, Jake felt a strange mixture of fear and determination. The weight of potential outcomes loomed large, casting shadows over his thoughts. But amidst that storm, he also sensed the thrilling rush of possibility. "Let's go face this together," he suggested, voice steadier. "It's time we find out what lies beneath the surface." But his heart raced as another chilling thought pierced through his concentration. What if their families had more secrets than they were prepared for? Fear and determination danced within him, and as they stepped out into the rain, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real journey was just about to begin. The rain drummed steadily against the barn roof as Jake and Margaret made their way back to their cars, the chill in the air matching the turmoil bubbling within him. Each step seemed to echo with the weight of impending revelations. They reached their vehicles, and Jake paused, trying to ground himself amidst the storm of anxiety stirring inside him. "What's going through your mind?" Margaret asked gently, her voice weaving through the sound of falling rain. Jake hesitated, feeling vulnerable. "I just can't shake the feeling that we're on the brink of something monumental. What if we find out things we didn't see coming?" She placed a steadying hand on his arm. "That uncertainty is part of it. But remember, it's about what we uncover together." Her words were an anchor for him, yet doubt flickered in his chest. He had always been the one who kept his family's skeletons at bay, mastering the art of avoidance. But now, it lay before him like an open field, inviting and daunting. As he drove home, he considered all the family stories he had held onto, the narratives cloaked in shame and pride. He wondered whether the person he had always assumed he was would fracture under the weight of the truth. Each flash of lightning illuminated dark corners of his mind, sparking thoughts that felt both conspiratorial and real. Arriving home, he found himself pacing the living room, the flickering light of the lamp casting an eerie glow. He was an adult, yet the echoes of childhood fears surged like a tidal wave. What if revealing their family truths caused irreparable rifts? What if the revelations about his lineage disrupted the fragile balance he had maintained? He had spent too long painting over cracks, and now, in pursuit of honesty, he feared a complete collapse. Sitting down at the kitchen table, he took a moment to collect his thoughts. One of his sticky notes reminded him of an important question they had discussed. What has been most hidden in our family histories? As he scribbled it down, an epiphany struck him. Instead of thrusting the spotlight on others, he realized the urgency in confronting his own resentment buried deep beneath layers of denial and misunderstanding. He breathed deeply and envisioned possibilities. What if he could be the catalyst for positive change, a transformative force that could redirect the course of his family dynamics and lead them toward mutual understanding? What if he unpacked his own burdens first, allowing himself to be vulnerable, thus creating an authentic space for others? Yet this question raised an unsettling concern. Could he truly expose his own feelings when so many memories carried the weight of anger and hurt? Each family story was interwoven with threads of past grievances that could ignite conflict. But if there was a path to healing, he needed to start somewhere, by addressing his pain and seeking clarity on what mattered most. Driven by the urgency of self-discovery, Jake devised a plan. He would begin with his own family history, examining hidden traumas he had either ignored or avoided ever since childhood. This exploration would require him to confront not only his family's narratives, but also his own identity, an expedition that promised both uncertainty and enlightenment. With each intention, his resolve strengthened. If the truth meant exposure, then it also meant liberation. He couldn't shy away from that chance, could he? The plan was coming together, yet just as he began crafting his thoughts, a chilling realization flooded his mind. What if he unearthed more than he bargained for? What if confronting one truth led him to an entirely different, darker one? The thought made Jake's heart race, a knot formed in his stomach. Tomorrow would be the first step, and as unsettling as it felt, he was determined to push through the discomfort. The journey ahead promised numerous challenges and potential heartaches, and he knew steadfast honesty would be crucial in navigating them. With that, he grabbed his jacket and stepped outside, feeling the cool air wrap around him like a shroud. The questions that loomed above him were vast and heavy, but one thing was clear. The time to confront the ghosts of his past had arrived. As he glanced around, a flicker of doubt returned. What if piecing together these fragments brought forth a truth too painful to bear? Was he ready for the storm that would surely follow? Jake's footsteps echoed in the stillness of the night, his mind racing with possibilities. He was on the precipice of change, standing at the turning point of his life. But as the wind howled and the rain poured, the nagging whisper remained. Could he withstand the tempest waiting just beyond the gate of discovery? The dawn broke with a delicate light that barely penetrated the heavy clouds lingering in the sky. Jake had not slept well. His mind had churned through the night, turning over the same questions, the same doubts. Each thought felt like a small weight pressing against his chest, a reminder of what lay ahead. The day felt heavy with anticipation, as if the universe itself held its breath. He brewed a strong cup of coffee, hoping the caffeine would provide clarity. Instead, he found himself staring out the window, watching the raindrops slide dramatically down the glass. In the reflection, he noticed the lines on his face, the evidence of years spent in avoidance, of years spent running from truths he feared might unravel everything he knew. Today, he would begin his exploration into his family's past. The very idea sent ripples of anxiety through him, yet a flicker of determination followed close behind. He had drafted a list of questions, deceptively simple queries that dug deep into the heart of familial lore. Each name on the family tree held a mystery. Each branch carried an untold story, potentially laden with secrets he might not be prepared to handle. Deciding to start with the family archives his mother had kept, he rummaged through dusty boxes in the attic. As sunlight streamed through the small window, illuminating specks of dust that danced like memories in the air, he felt a strange blend of nostalgia and dread. He sifted through papers, old photographs, and yellowed letters, while each item stirred a cocktail of emotions. Some brought warmth, others an uneasy chill. He unfolded a letter, its faded ink revealing long-forgotten sentiments. It was from his grandfather, torn between pride and regret, detailing dreams crushed by life's merciless waves. Jake's heart twisted. The ache of unfulfilled aspirations echoed in his own life. He had drowned his own dreams in the mundane, convinced he was preserving stability, yet stifling his own potential. As he dug deeper, he unearthed more than simple family history. The legacy of pain and sacrifice emerged clearly, forcing him to confront shadows he had long ignored. He found stories of familial strife, of grudges held, and words unspoken. Yet within those narratives, he also discovered profound resilience. Moments where love had triumphed over adversity stirred something inside him, igniting a flicker of hope that perhaps confronting the past could lead to understanding, if not absolution. Hours passed as he immersed himself in the truth of his lineage, revitalized by the warmth of shared human experiences. Each revelation revealed a pattern, a flawed but beautiful mosaic of humanity that both frightened and inspired him. But beneath the surface lay something darker, a rift that began to whisper its secrets. A name mentioned only in passing, a distant relative whose actions echoed through generations of shame. Jake felt a tightening in his chest as he recognized the potential for conflict. What if confronting this aspect of his family's history brought forth a truth that could shatter the thin veneer of peace he had come to accept? His fingers trembled over the last page he had uncovered, hesitant to turn it. It held a question, one that resonated painfully with his earlier musings. How much of our past must we confront before we can truly move forward? That was the moment he understood. This wasn't just about family secrets. It was about his own standing within that narrative. As he closed the box and stepped back from the past, he felt the firm weight of reality pressing in. He was ready to face those ghosts, yet a gut-wrenching fear remained. The days ahead promised volatility, as he would need to confront not only his family's truth, but his own. Could he truly reveal the scars of his upbringing without being swallowed whole? With determination surging within him, he set the box back in its place, knowing this was only the beginning. He was poised on the edge of self-discovery, ready to dive deeper. But just as he gathered himself to leave the attic, a sound echoed from below, a voice he hadn't expected to hear. It was his mother, her footsteps heavy with the weight of revelation. Would she be prepared to face the truths he uncovered, or would her refusal to confront the past only deepen the fissure in their bond? The air crackled with anticipation, and Jake felt the storm within him brew once more. The moment of truth was upon him. Jake hesitated at the attic's threshold, the warmth of sunlight contrasting sharply with the chill that gripped his heart. The sound of his mother's footsteps echoed through the house like a summons, urging him to face a truth he had long avoided. Could it be that today was the day everything changed? He descended the stairs slowly, each step laden with the weight of hidden memories and unsaid words. The aroma of his mother's familiar cooking filled the air, yet it felt discordant now. He remembered meals shared without the burden of truths clinging to his conscience. Today, each scent felt like a herald of confrontation. "Jake, are you coming down for lunch?" her voice called out, tinged with an urgency he rarely heard from her. There was a tremor in her tone that suggested she knew more than she let on. "Coming," he replied, the word feeling hollow as it left his lips. As he approached the kitchen, he wondered how to bridge the inevitable gap, the one formed not only by their unwillingness to address the past, but by grief and regrets they had both buried deep. When he entered, his mother stood at the counter, her back to him. He could see the back of her head, strands of silver threading through her dark hair. In that moment, he felt a pang of empathy. She had been shaped by their family narrative as much as he had. "Hi, honey," she said, turning around with a smile that faded quickly. "I was just making your favorite." The way she said it felt rehearsed, a fragile mask attempting to conceal deeper issues lurking underneath. "Thanks, Mom," he muttered, the aroma suddenly heavy with implications. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table, a space that had been a neutral ground, now feeling like a battlefield. Jake picked at his food absent-mindedly, his thoughts racing. His list of questions loomed large in his mind, each one like a pebble in his shoe as he prepared to walk this tricky path. "Mom," he began, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Can we talk about Dad and our family history?" A flicker of apprehension crossed her face, quickly masked by a facade of calm. "What do you mean, Jake?" she asked, her fork stilling midair. "I've been looking through some of the things in the attic. I think we need to confront what's been buried. There are truths I believe we're avoiding." Silence ensued, dripping with tension. Her expression shifted, revealing a combination of discomfort and familiarity, as if the conversation had occurred many times before, yet never completed. "I know it's difficult," he continued, pressing forward, "but these secrets are tied to us. They shape who we are." "Jake, some things are better left in the past," she replied, a tinge of desperation creeping into her voice. The emotions in her eyes reflected a history he could feel but hadn't yet fully experienced. "But what if they're holding us back? What if facing them could help us grow?" He felt his voice rise slightly, fueled by a mix of fear and ambition. Could this be the moment he unveiled shared burdens? His mother drew a deep breath, visibly bracing herself. "Sometimes facing them takes more strength than you'd think. More than we have," she finally admitted, her voice steady but laden with sorrow. Yet in that moment, Jake felt emboldened. The heavy veil of avoidance that had cloaked their relationship began to tear. "Mom, let's be stronger together. I'm ready to face whatever it is, but I need you with me." He saw a flicker of something in her eyes, perhaps recognition, or maybe even hope. A tangible shift began to unfold between them. The storm of emotions that had prevailed suddenly felt more like a riptide, filled with the potential to reshape their bond. "All right," she whispered, her voice barely above the clinking of the dishes. "Let's talk." Her reluctant agreement stirred an unexpected thrill within Jake. But as they launched into discussion, the name from the letters surfaced again, a ghost that hovered eerily close. What about Aunt Clara? She was never mentioned after... His mother's face dropped, and the smile vanished entirely. "We should leave her out of this," she said firmly. Jake's heart raced. He had struck a nerve. The whispers of hidden stories echoed louder in the silence. It was clear their conversation was far from over, and now the depth of his inquiry extended beyond his own revelations. This would be a confrontation fueling something deeper. As Jake prepared to dive deeper, a new wave of apprehension washed over him. Would the truths he sought unravel them both? Yet, amidst the uncertainty, he realized he was no longer that child who fled from confrontation. He was ready to fight for understanding, and in doing so, ready to redefine his own identity. The stakes had never felt higher, and he wanted answers, even if they threatened to shatter the fragile peace he had come to accept. "I need to know everything," he declared softly, knowing full well this declaration wasn't merely about his past. It was a promise to break free from the binds of fear, a commitment to embrace the raw chaos of their familial tapestry. The door to his mother's secrets had finally cracked open, but with each revelation, they risked deeper emotional rifts. As the sunlight streamed in, illuminating shadows and secrets alike, Jake could not escape the foreboding question that loomed. At what cost would the truth come? As the sunlight faded, Jake stared into the depths of his mother's eyes, determined to pull back the layers of secrecy that had shrouded their family for far too long. The conversation shifted, gliding from past grievances to unexplored corners of their hearts. He felt an almost magnetic pull towards the truth, but heavy doubts remained. Was he prepared for anything that could emerge? "Let's talk about Aunt Clara," he suggested cautiously, cautious of triggering a deeper fear within her. What happened that made her a taboo subject? His mother's expression hardened. "You don't need to know about her," she replied defensively, her gaze faltering in defiance. "Her story doesn't reflect on you or your father." "Doesn't it?" Jake countered, surprised at the resilience flickering within him. "Every family story intertwines with our identity. If we are to forge ahead and redefine our legacy, we must understand the past. Everything is connected." The silence grew thick, punctuated by the ticking clock that seemed to drone louder with every passing second. He could feel her tension radiating across the table, and yet a thread of determination woven with love pushed him to persist. "Mom, please," he pressed, softening his tone. "I need to know why we've kept her hidden. If she holds pieces of our family's history, it might just illuminate the path forward." Her shoulders relaxed only slightly as she shifted in her seat, battling an internal tumult. "Clara was different," she whispered, as if the very name conjured whispers of pain. She made choices that echoed through generations, choices that were not understood. It was the first crack in the facade, and Jake felt a surge of hope. He leaned in, welcoming her vulnerability. "What choices?" he urged, his heart pounding with anticipation. "What did she do?" His mother's sigh carried the weight of years filled with unspoken fears. "Clara was involved in an affair that caused a rift in our family's reputation. She fell in love in forbidden ways, and it left scars that never healed." Jake felt the pieces of the puzzle begin to come together, but there were still cracks they hadn't addressed. "So that's why we never speak of her. We've buried her to protect our name?" "Protecting our name is only part of it," his mother said, her voice lowering. It was also about not exposing ourselves to judgment. We thought keeping her names out of the light would shield us, but it has only created a shadow. Suddenly, the storm in Jake's heart transformed into a torrent. Understanding the weight of their avoidance, he now felt an overwhelming urge to reclaim their truth. "Mom, we can't keep hiding," he stated firmly. "Confronting Clara's legacy can't be more painful than carrying around the burden of her secrets." His mother looked at him, a flicker of recognition lighting her eyes. She began to grasp that Jake wasn't just searching for answers for himself. He was advocating for their whole family. He sought authenticity and a chance to heal. "Are you saying you want to reach out to Clara?" she asked, incredulous. "Yes," he affirmed. "But more than that, we need to understand our own feelings about her story. We need to forgive what has been done and learn to rise above the pain we've carried." A silence fell, but it wasn't the same strained quiet that had loomed between them moments before. It now pulsed with possibility, and Jake could see a shift in his mother. It was small, but significant, a promise that healing could begin. "Perhaps we shouldn't be scared of what we might uncover," she admitted, vulnerability echoing in her voice. "Maybe it's time we met Clara, opened our arms instead of shutting them. Only then can we escape the shadow." The weight that had crushed Jake's heart lifted, replaced by a blossoming sense of determination. He realized they weren't just unpacking the tragedy of lost love, but heralding a new vision for their family. A vision that encompassed growth, forgiveness, and connection. Together they began to map out a plan, gathering the fragments of their family history, ready to write a new narrative that included those long silenced. After days filled with uncertainty, a sense of solid confidence emerged from within Jake, a competence forged through preparing for a truth he could finally face. The following week, they stood on the precipice of change, ready to reach out to Aunt Clara. This wasn't just about history, it was about transforming their lineage into something proud and whole. As Jake embraced his mother, they stood together fortified by their newfound resilience, solidly connected through shared truths. His determination to confront their past had awakened a fierce drive within him, the kind that could conquer fears and reshape futures. He felt recognized in ways he had always longed for, an acknowledgement of his ability to bridge gaps and provide a voice where silence once prevailed. The realization arrived with clarity. Transitioning into this newfound embracing of their legacy would not only heal wounds, but would also solidify his place in their family's story. "Let this be the moment we claim our legacy," Jake stated, more for himself than anyone else. As the door to a brighter horizon opened, he fully understood the responsibility he bore. A responsibility to build a future grounded in honesty, admiration, and love. A fulfilling legacy awaited them. It was time for them to become the authors of their own family history, a history defined not by shadows, but by moments of resilience and restoration. Now, it's your turn to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of standing together through these actions.